Hello and welcome to my channel. Second update for the coast to coast road trip. Welcome back and thanks for being here. We're on day 5, right? And since we last talked to you, we stopped in Central Texas to visit with my brother, and my father was there, stepmother as well. And yeah, that was a nice visit. Long day. That one wasn't too bad, was it? That day?
No, it wasn't.
We showed up.
What happened?
Yeah, that's right. It was a short day. We got there mid-afternoon. Hung out for, well, I mean, we got a sunset photo. There was a sunset photo that I wanted to capture in Inks Lake State Park, but it just didn't work out. Decided to hang out with the family instead. So, turns out my brother's property is pretty good size and scenic enough to uncouple the trailer and pull in the grass and get some decent photos. We'll see how they turned out. I'll share them here, but obviously I don't know how they turned out until I mix them up and see how they look. The next day we went from there to Alamogordo in Mexico, and that was a pretty long day. We got on the road at a decent time, but we're driving on all these little 2-lane roads through nowhere. So that was our first encounter, I think, with 91 octane fuel. There was no 93 out there, and we also didn't refuel with top tier because there just wasn't anything out there. So I just told you maybe 2 videos ago that I use exclusively top tier fuel. Well, apparently not on this trip. A few videos ago, I mentioned the things that I did to the car to prepare it for the trip. And while it was in the shop getting the intake valves clean, I had my APR program changed to 91 octane. Because I knew that once I got to West Texas and farther west than that, there'd be no 93. When you live on the East Coast, you take 93 octane for granted. And everywhere west of, say, Central Texas, it's just not available. So I think even when I get back home, I'm not going to put the 93 octane back in, program it back into the ECU, because I feel like the car will be more of a nationwide travel car at that point. And the ironic part is, if I leave it on 91 octane, I probably won't ever need it again. I'll just be having 91 or 93 available everywhere I go. And I think having 91 octane is just more convenient, the file I mean. The loss is only about 4 horsepower and 8 pound-feet, and that's inconsequential. I mean, unless you're trying to run it the drag strip and need every little ounce of power squeaked out of your car, it's just not a big deal. So 91 octane file is how I'm pulling this off. But I could not take the car to, say, Alaska with this file. I was following Gears in Gasoline. Check out their video here. They drove a couple of cars up to Alaska, and they could not go very far. They couldn't go into where they wanted to go in Alaska because there was no premium unleaded fuel up there. It stopped at 89, and you put 89 in a tuned GTI, and apparently in their cars as well, it just results in pigging and just terrible driving experience. So that's what's happening with me and the fuel. While we were stopped for fuel and I was taking the required car photos parked in different places, I noticed a screw in one of my tires, front tire, and that of course created a delay. I went ahead and pulled the screw out, and of course it was a leak, so then I plugged it, and it just took a little while. I didn't want to take the wheel off the car, and so that just made everything more difficult. It might have gone better if I took the wheel off the car, I don't know. But anyway, we wound up getting to Alamogordo very late. I had hoped to get there before sunrise or sunset, but I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen anyway. And then when we got up this morning, the park at White Sands National Monument, it doesn't open until after sunrise anyway, so there was no sunrise photo and there was no golden hour photo. And if you don't know what golden hour is, you may have noticed it a lot. I've actually had people comment that a lot of the photos I share in my videos and on my website, there's no shadows, no harsh light, kind of like what you're seeing on my face here right now. I choose to do most of that kind of stuff at a time of day where it's just not, there's no harsh lighting. I couldn't avoid that at White Sands, but sometimes the timeline of a trip just doesn't work out for photography. I think the last time I visited White Sands, I intentionally got there mid-afternoon and then spent the night, and it was also during a time of year where sunrise is later, I think, and so I got good photos the day before and the day after. So that's just not really in the cards for this trip. I have a hard deadline to get to Central California at a specific time, or by a specific time. My daughter's landing in Fresno, and I got to get there for her. So I can't just stick around White Sands for the ideal photo. Now we're leaving and on our way from Alamogordo to Kingman, Arizona. And this probably will be one of our longest days. The long days that we have to get. When we're going home, I have long days scheduled there too, but I don't have hard deadlines like airplane arrivals or memorials or things like that. I have a little more flexibility, and if I run a little late, it may suck a little bit and be an inconvenience, but it's not going to really be terrible. I'm going to try to maintain a timeline, but I don't know that if we don't, it's not going to kill us. Let's see, last night, even though I didn't make the sunset photos at White Sands, I was interested in getting a picture of the car with a pump jack. It just was so representative of the area that we were driving through. I mentioned that there was no top tier fuel out there, and ironically, we were just driving through natural gas and oil country. Just everywhere you could see, there were just pump jacks. You look at the satellite imagery and you just see these speckles of crushed gravel pads everywhere, and you know that every one of them have a pump jack on them. So I wanted to get a picture of the car near a pump jack, and we got one. And then right at sunset, we found a really good pull-off right beside a pump jack, and sunset and everything. So I'm hoping that one comes out pretty good. That one may even be better than the White Sands pictures that I took this morning, because White Sands, there was nothing interesting in the sky, and the sun was a little harsh. I don't know, you'll find out. I don't have any plans to stop along this route for interesting photos unless something really just catches my eye. I don't have my Navi up right now, but I think we're projecting that we're going to get to where we're going around 9 o'clock, and that will only become later if we stop for photos or a meal, which I don't think we're going to really stop for a meal. We'll do a drive-thru or something like that just to keep moving. And then tomorrow is our final drive into Central California. We're going to drop off the trailer at my aunt's place. I may take the car to a Discount Tire to get the tire properly patched if it can be, and if it can't be, then I'm just going to drive on the plug. I know the plugs will last plenty long enough. I'm not terribly worried about my safety on that. And then we'll be able to drive around locally without a trailer, which will be nice. And then once we take our daughter back to fly out, she leaves on Friday, and we'll come back for the trailer, and then the cats, and then the fun really begins. Yes, we'll see how talkative these cats are. They don't know us very well. They've been exposed to us, but the boys especially, they hide. The female, she's the mama of them, I guess, and the referee, which is kind of funny because she has no claws, but she's the welcoming committee. So she's been in my lap, and she'll stay in your lap as long as it suits her, and that's about it, and she's gone. So I don't know, she might remember me or she might not. Could be an interesting travel. Something else I can bring up is, think of this as a long-term review. I posted a 100,000 mile video, 4-year video, and overall I'm pleased with the car, and I don't mind it on long road trips, but my passenger does not like it on long road trips because Tell them what you think of the seats.
They're like rocks.
They're like rocks.
They're super hard.
They're hard, and the car rides like a what?
A jackhammer.
A jackhammer. I'm on shock suspension. So those of you with tuned suspension, yeah, feel free to comment below. I know you disagree with that, but I will confess that one of the reasons I haven't changed the suspension on this car, I would love to see it be just an inch lower. An inch lower would put it right at that stance that I think would look great, but I don't want to risk the ride quality of the car at all, because I think it rides perfect and the alignment is perfect. I can just drive down the road, whee, there's nothing wrong here, and I've never had it checked or anything. That's been wonderful. But I'm afraid, you know, all these guys who say, oh yeah, just put the HROE sport springs on, it'll feel just like stock. That's what they always say. And oh, it feels just like stock, and then when I do it, no, it doesn't. So I think that even when I replace the struts on this car and get a fresh set, it's going to firm up the ride. And I'm not saying that I'm going to dislike it, but I will notice that it's firmer. And I'm pretty sure you'll notice as well. At least for 20,000 miles, it'll feel firmer. And it's another reason why this car will never see 19-inch wheels, because all of that. If I could put 17s on here and get matching sets and keep everything consistent, I would have done it. But right when I was looking for the right set of 17-inch wheels, I tripped over a second set of Nogaros, and I decided to go down that path. And now I've got a third set of Nogaros, and so I'm sticking with the 18-inch Nogaros. I think I'd love to have 17s on the car because it would ride a little smoother, but oh well. What else about the car do you dislike? The drone. I mean, it doesn't sound so bad right now because we're in flat territory, and I'm in 5th gear instead of 6th. The car still does not drive so great in 6th gear because of the hills. Pulling the trailer. I think the trailer is around 1,300 pounds. And we probably have about 400 or 500. No, I don't think 500. Well, with us, maybe 400 to 500 pounds of cargo, including us, because let's face it, meat is kind of heavy, and we're the meat. Especially me, I'm a lot of meat.
I don't weigh that much.
I know, but it adds up. So, of course, she doesn't weigh that much, and she's really young too. My young bride. But once, oh man, that's something I didn't report on. The fuel economy. Man, when we were driving through West Texas, speed limit was 75. Well, before that, when the speed limit was around 60 or 65, I was getting about 24 miles to the gallon. And it's a little shocking, but I mean, I'm pulling a parachute back here. And I think I might have mentioned that in a previous video. Didn't I say something about the aerodynamics of the wall behind us? That wall, coming from the TDI community, I know that when you wind resistance increases exponentially, and this may be ballpark. I'm just going to say it, whether or not there's going to be some physicists out there who's like, that's not how that works. But double speed equals quadruple air pressure or air resistance, and so there's a huge difference in fuel economy between going 65 miles an hour and 75 miles an hour. And you don't notice it so much when it's just the car. But I've got the cargo box on top and the parachute behind me on the trailer. And for the day that I was driving 75 miles an hour, I got 19 miles to the gallon. That's still better than an SUV at 75 miles an hour. But wow, that was a shocker to nearly run out of gas on one of these stretches, and then again I wasn't able to get top tier fuel. That was irritating because we pull into, where were we? Andrews, Texas, oil country nowhere.
Yep.
I found a Shell on the Navi, and I navigated to it, and it wasn't the Shell. It was it Shell? Or what company was it? Chevron, I think. It was a corporate office. It wasn't a gas station. So then I plugged in another big name fuel company, and again, there was no fuel station there, so we wound up fueling up at some, podunk station that, sure, it'll make your car go, but it's not this stuff. It's not the fuel with detergents and things like that to help keep your engine clean. What else? Oh, I'm still going to do a video on the WeBoost antenna. We have been putting it to use. We see the signal get a little low, like it is right now. When we turn it on, you definitely see the signal go up, and we'll see it switch from LTE or maybe no bars. I'll do a full update on that later. But the reason I bring it up is out in West Texas and New Mexico, not so much today, but out there in the oil fields, it seemed like over half of the pickup trucks that I saw out there had WeBoost. WeBoost is very popular out there in West Texas. I was pretty surprised. And I'm pretty sure I'm still the only small car I've seen out there with it, but plenty of pickup trucks. So the WeBoost is everywhere out there. I haven't seen them so much today, and we're not far from the interstate. In the interstate, we're going to have decent cell phone coverage out there. So yeah, that's all I can think of about that. Back to our regularly scheduled drive. We'll figure out something else to bicker about the car. We don't bicker so much, but the GTI is not as comfortable as a Jetta. And
I ride cushy.
Yeah, the ride is cushy, but I don't necessarily think the seats are any better. It's one of those things where the grass is greener on the other side, or like that Far Side cartoon with the fish in the aquarium, and then it had a fish outside. He was suffocating and trying to get back in, and the fish inside was saying, "Yeah, the water's always bluer on the other side of the glass." It's the same thing with her seat. So we drove someplace. It must have been when we went to go get Diana from somewhere, and we drove the Jetta, and I didn't feel any more comfortable in the seats. She did, I guess, but I didn't. So I guess it's all preference. I mean, I think that the seats are firm, and I feel it get stiff after a while, but I survive.
Heidi is more used to the firmness than...
Yeah, maybe. Plus my extra mass has pressed my seats down into submission or something like that. I've broken them in where that seat doesn't get a whole lot of
use.
butt time and
Right.
getting smashed down and broken in. So maybe that's part of it. But I don't know. I sat there for a couple hours the other day and it didn't kill me. So, anyway, maybe someday I'll get a nice cushy car that's got a nice soft seats that massage your butt while you're driving down the road. Who knows? No, you don't think I'm going to do that?
You like to
Yes, I like to torture her. I forgot to mention during our night drive, I was hoping to stop in Cloudcroft. And where was that? Was it 8,500 feet?
Yes.
So that would have been currently our highest altitude driven on this trip, or in this car, I believe, as well. And there wasn't any, I was hoping there was a nice sign that said welcome to Cloudcroft or something, and I was just going to take some night photography and maybe some light painting or something, and it just wasn't there. The whole town was just shut down. Nothing was open. It was just black darkness. What time was that? 9?
It was a little over.
Okay. But something that we did see, it kind of spooked us. When we were with my brother, they were watching these, what do you call them, ghost shows?
Yes.
And I don't really buy into that stuff, paranormal stuff. And I remember one of them was talking about, well, Bigfoot. Anyway, there was this one on there. It was like this werewolf-like thing, right? And as we're driving down this mountain in all this darkness, I don't usually use my high beams, but I was using my high beams just so I could see where I was going and what was around me out there. And I was just thinking about how creepy it would be for something unexpected or unknown to wind up wandering into the road. And cool at the same time if it was something that we couldn't explain, because even if it was one of those things that would make it on that paranormal show, I'm the type of guy to just say that was just some doofus wearing a suit trying to scare people. I mean, I wouldn't buy into it. And then we get to this point to where, oh, what did we see? We saw 3 signs. One of them was for cattle crossing the road. And then I think we saw deer.
Yes.
And then we saw elk. And then as we're going down the mountain, we see this gigantic elk in the other lane walking up the mountain. He had kind of had his head down, so we didn't see eyeballs glowing or anything like that. So what I saw was this hulking mass that did not reflect light, and there was nothing I could do. If I had spooked him and he decided to run across the road in front of me, that would have been the end of the trip right there, because this dude was over 1,000 pounds easily. He was just massive.
Head's taller than the car.
Yeah, he was taller than the car, and yeah, that was something. It really kind of spooked us. And then even spookier was there was cars coming up the mountain that they would have certainly ran right across him. And yeah, we don't know how that panned out.
Hopefully no one crashed it.
Yeah, hopefully no one hit the elk. The fuel on the car just now driving up these mountains. 6th gear, nope, not any good. Let me see if I can get some of the sun off my face. That helps. Yeah, I got a flashing check engine light. That usually doesn't happen unless you've got a fouled spark plug or coil pack or something like that. I immediately downshifted to 5th to get my RPMs back up, and flashing light went away. So I'll check later to see if there is a stored code, and if there is, I'll flash it up here someplace. I'll put it right over her face so that you can check it out. I'm just kidding. It'll be over her head, over top of it, like up here. It could be her code. I'd be curious to see if it's stored the code and what it says. And then there have been a couple more times where usually it's 75 miles an hour. If my RPMs are at 2,500 or above, the car drives just fine. But no, it was kind of shuddering. And so now I'm in 5th gear doing 65, and the car's driving fine. But it does not want to drive below 2,500 RPM on these hills. It shudders a little bit. No more check engine lights, but I have to wonder if there's a fuel quality thing going on here. Because what if that 91 octane is just a little less than 91 octane? Would that contribute to it? We just left Socorro, New Mexico, and are approaching the VLA, the Very Large Array. I'm pretty sure that this is the same array that was featured in the motion picture Contact, the whole search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And I don't think we're gonna go to it, but we're hoping to get within eye shot of it and maybe get some distant pictures of it or something like that. Or if it's not too far out of the way, maybe we will just drive up to it if they'll let us, without getting shot at or anything like that. So I'll be sure to share those photos if I can get them. You got something you were going to add? Comment? We usually come up with something new to add after I've taken the camera down and put it down here. The mount is in the door. Oh, let's talk about this. But I don't know, that's a me thing. I'm not blaming you. I just think, hey, I want to talk about that. These guys ain't used to these types of videos out of me. Usually I do these factual things about the car with the boring, dry, technical bits. So this is a little different. I'm going to slow down to 45. Checkpoints everywhere. What did that say?
Operation DWI.
Oh, DWI. Well, I'm going to worry about that.
Nope. You're a T.
I don't even like T.
No, you don't. Magdalena Club. I guess there's a...
Oh, is this the place with the little array?
Yes. I guess there's a small fault line that goes through this area.
Oh, okay. Here, let me give you guys a look at what we're... So exciting. Oh, look, there's a copper. Slow down.
That says school speed.
I know, but I was doing 10 over.
Oh.
Right past him. Exciting stuff. What do you think of that? We saw an awful lot of this yesterday along our drive. I can't think of anything else to update you on this leg of our journey. Next will be after we depart, and we'll see what we have to say at that point. So, as always, I appreciate you being here, and I'll talk to you next time. Oh, before I go, do you have anything you want to add? No? Nothing? Okay.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, I can't think of any of the interesting things that she and I have talked about. Trying to keep the channel apolitical, so I'm not going to share any of that stuff, but yeah, we've said some other weird things, but I can't think of them right now. Things about the car or the trip, just dumb stuff, I guess. But now it doesn't come to mind. Things that would have been fun to capture on video and share them with you, but we don't run the camera full time here. So anyway, now I'm blabbering. I'm trying not to do a whole lot of edits on this thing, so let's see if I'm sharing my bumbling. Anyway, talk to you later. See you. Hello and welcome to my channel. We're on the road. See, that's what I don't know what I'm going to say. So I try a few things out and I'm like, yeah, that one there didn't work.